Hello. Hi, my name is Angelo Lopez. I'm a Filipino American editorial cartoonist based in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I have the distinct pleasure today to speak to a wonderful editorial cartoonist in Texas. His name is Nick Anderson. Let me tell you a little bit about his background. Nick has been in the Louisville Courier Journal, the
Hmm.
Houston Chronicle, the Tribune Content Agency, and you are currently editor of Reform Austin.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Your cartoons have been in the New York Times, Newsweek, the Washington Post, and USA Today.
Hmm.
You, you founded Counterpoint in 2018 as a
Hmm.
forum for editorial cartooning, and you won the 2005 Pulitzer Prize, the
Hmm.
Sigma Delta Chi Award. You've twice won the Fischetti Award, and you won the National Press Foundation's Berryman Award. So thank you very much. I'm very honored after reading all those awards to be speaking to you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I've just been in the business long enough to win some awards. Hopefully
Yeah.
this will too. Trying to get my light adjusted. Does it look all right on your end?
It looks pretty good. Looks good.
Okay.
Yeah. But my
Uh,
thing's a little, you know, I don't know how I can improve my lighting here too. So, but okay, I guess I can just start off by just asking, since you are in Texas, what are some issues that Texas has been facing these past few years?
Last year was really pretty grueling for us at RA because we were a very small staff and we had a regular session that the legislative Texas legislature goes into session every 2 years for about 6 months. And Governor Abbott last year was really pushing private school vouchers
Uh,
because his billionaire funders are Christians, very kind of like some people call them Christo-fascists because they want to impose their views on everyone else. They want public money for private schools because they think public schools are too woke,
yeah.
and so they want to just they have been on record saying they basically want to destroy the public school system and replace it with religious education. So the governor gets a lot of money from them, and several of the other legislators do as well. So the governor kept losing though. In the regular session, it didn't pass. So he had four special sessions. Plus, we had the impeachment of our attorney general. So we were basically in session almost the entire 2023. And it was real, the hours were, you were working 7 days a week, most weeks. It was really stressful. So I'm assigning stories, I edit, I do some writing, and I do 3 to 5 cartoons a week, a little bit of photography. So it was really a crazy busy year. And so I'm kind of like enjoying it being a little slow right now. So vouchers failed in every session because the Democrats are universally opposed to it. And even though they're in the minority, you've heard Friday Night Lights about Texas.
Yeah.
Football is really big in rural Texas. Public schools are very important in rural Texas. They're the community centers.
Yeah.
So, and there's not a lot of private schools in rural Texas. So, what happened with the rural Republican legislators and the Democrats joined forces to defeat vouchers, and the governor is going after them now, trying to make them lose their primary elections because Republicans don't have much to worry about in general elections because it's such a Republican state. So most Republicans, the reason we keep moving right is because most Republican legislators are worried about losing in the primary, not in the general.
Yeah.
So they keep getting primaried from extreme right, and so they keep moving right to prevent that.
Yeah.
So we'll see whether or not how that pans out for them. If they lose their primaries, then vouchers will probably win in the next session 2 years from now or next year now. So then we also had abortion as a huge issue, and the border is obviously a huge issue. And Texas is it's interesting because Texas is becoming demographically more purple. Like Trump won by 6 points, and 10 years ago, I think Romney won the state by like 12 points or something like that. And
Oh, well. Okay.
so it's getting tighter. But the state keeps moving further to the right, ironically. So it's at some point there's going to be a break, but I'm not holding my breath.
Is it gerrymandering? part of the
Gerrymandering
issue?
is, yeah, gerrymandering is very bad here. They do everything on, everything is at a computer level of down to the precinct. And so they create very safe districts for Republicans, and they have very little to fear. There's very few contested um, uh, gerrymandered districts. So
Mhm.
basically that's how they've managed to control the legislature, because in fact, our population grew largely because of Hispanic population,
Yeah.
but all the new legislative districts are expanding white power. So they're
Oh,
really good at disenfranchising minority groups, and through cracking and packing is what they call it, packing minorities into really like almost 100% minority districts, and
yeah.
so that they don't dilute the districts that are Republican. So it's an
Um,
overwhelmingly white legislature in a very diverse state, actually. Um,
um,
there is some diversity for sure, but it doesn't match the proportions in the general population.
yeah. So you
Um,
guys are in the front lines of the, I guess, both the culture wars and the rise in Christian nationalism.
that's
Mhm.
exactly right. I gotta grab something here.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
got somebody bothering me right now.
Oh, no.
It's
Oh,
my
no, that's
wife's dog.
okay. I've had a few cartoonists show me their dogs, so don't worry. What's the name of your dog?
This is Coco. It's
Oh,
my
hi,
wife.
Coco.
Say hi. She's my wife's dog. She's named after Coco Chanel because my wife loves Chanel. So
Oh, okay. Well,
anyway,
if Coco has any political ideas that she wants to contribute to this talk,
well,
feel
she's
free to
really
let
a
her.
white supremacist. I mean, look at her.
Okay.
To
Okay. So,
answer your question on that topic, yes, we are on the front lines of the culture wars for sure.
uh,
They demagogue the trans issues, and they're making parents with trans kids, criminals, calling them abusers. They're threatening to arrest any hospitals or medical providers that do any kind of hormonal treatment for kids who are going through kind of an identity crisis, which is really cruel to me.
yeah,
Um, and of course, the border issue is constantly demagogued. Schools, they kept saying the governor kept saying schools are for education, not indoctrination, which is such BS because they're trying to indoctrinate with
yeah,
religious education. It's such
yeah,
a lie. There are so many cultural war issues going on here. I could go on all for our whole sessions.
yeah,
I'll,
yeah,
I'll,
yeah.
I'll stop. Yeah.
Yeah, you just reminded me. A few years ago, was Texas part of that conflict over teaching evolution versus what's that intelligent design? Was that part of Texas or?
Yeah, that seems to have faded. I haven't heard about intelligent design in quite a while,
Okay.
or evolution wars. There's the Ten Commandments became an issue again last session, where they wanted to get Ten Commandments in the classrooms, and
Oh, okay.
that ended up losing, surprisingly. But it always comes back
Gonna
around.
pop up again. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. Let me quickly ask you. I asked this of all cartoonists, but who were your cartoonist heroes and heroines, and how have they influenced you?
I'd say Jeff McNelly and Pat Oliphant mostly. When I was in high school, I bought books of McNelly and Oliphant, and just would spend hours paging through them. I got a subscription to the Chicago Tribune back before the internet.
Uh,
So I got a subscription to the Chicago Tribune just so I could see Jeff McNelly's cartoons as
uh,
often as possible. He's just an amazing cartoonist, more conservative than I am, but I started out kind of more in the middle, and I've grown more left, more liberal over the course of my career.
oh,
Uh,
okay.
Oliphant and McNelly were my two heroes. Yeah.
Yeah, and they can really draw.
Oh, phenomenal artists, yes.
Oh,
And
okay.
brilliant commentators as well. They were the whole package. They're just very smart, insightful, and so talented.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Oh, well, I'm curious then. How do you do your cartoons? Are you using Procreate or some
I am
drawing
using
program?
Yeah, I'm using Procreate on the iPad. I was one of the first cartoonists to go mostly digital before the
Oh,
iPad came out. I was using the Cintiq.
okay.
I was coloring my cartoons just with the I would draw them on paper back in like 2005. Actually, the year I won the Pulitzer was when I was started doing color cartoons because our newspaper got color. So I
Yeah,
would draw them on paper, scan them, and then use the tablet. And so when you're looking at the screen, but like drawing down here, it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it would take me 2 hours to colorize my cartoons. It was so
Wow.
time intensive. And that after a couple of years of doing that, then I was able to get a Cintiq monitor, and I use the Cintiq where you draw. In fact, I'm on a Wacom Cintiq right now.
Oh,
I'm looking at you on that, but I don't use it as much because once I started trying the iPad, I'm like, this is amazing. I can take it wherever. I actually prefer it, and Procreate is an amazing program, and it's only $10. It is a bargain.
oh, wow.
It's
I haven't, I
incredible.
haven't, I haven't taken the deep dive yet, but I've noticed, when a cartoonist gets a baby, in order to get some sleep, they get the Procreate just because they want to save time and stuff.
It is a big time saver. Being able to travel and do work on the plane and things like that, it's so advantageous being able to do everything, take it with you, file from anywhere, and also, yeah, it's a time saver because you can undo things, move things around,
Oh,
working in layers. It's so much faster than drawing on paper, you know.
oh, okay, okay. So, okay, well, okay. I read online you are the last full-time editorial cartoonist in Texas.
Yes, I
And
was.
yeah, but Texas has had this wonderful tradition of great editorial cartoonists like Ben
Yeah,
Sargent, Etta
yeah,
Hugh, you and stuff.
yeah. Thanks.
Um, what what does Texas lose by not having a full-time editorial cartoonist in its state?
Well, I think that there are people who aren't as engaged in the news as, say, you and I are.
Yeah,
And so a political cartoon can inform them and provoke them and get them thinking in a way that the written word cannot. And so
yeah,
you lose that local voice. And yeah, I think it's a real loss. And it's been really nice to land this job. I lost my job at the Chronicle in 2017, Houston Chronicle. And for 18 months, I survived on freelance. It was pretty challenging. And then I got a job in the Houston mayor's office, working communications for the director of government relations. So mayor of Houston, uh, during legislative sessions, he would want his priorities pushed or try to stop other things. And so the GR team would be in Austin, and I was sort of the go-between. So I went from being freelance to working directly with Houston's mayor 4 or 5 days a week in meetings
oh,
with him. It was really exciting, and it was really interesting to see government from the other side and to see it in a granular level. It was an absolutely fascinating job.
yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was it
You
was
you've been to
great.
a lot of meetings, right? City council meetings and stuff, or
Yeah, and then he would have the mayor would have an executive meeting with his whole executive staff, all the directors from around the city, every once a week, and I would go to that, and here I am with all these important people and little me.
yeah,
So it was a really an intimidating experience at first, but really helps inform my work now. And so what happened is I got after 2.5 years, I was approached by this publication. Um, Saying, hey, we're looking for, you have the fit that we want, because they think visuals are really important. I mean, the nice thing is they get it. Visuals are
yeah,
really important today, and they draw people in on social media and anywhere. So because I have a lot of writing background as well. I developed my writing after I lost my job.
yeah,
And that's what I did for the mayor. I did a lot of writing.
yeah,
So that package sort of came together and was a really good fit for a publication. And so, I love writing. And so I do 3 cartoons a week right now, at least. And then all the other things as well. It's really challenging. I get to do a lot of different things, and there's a lot of time constraints, or it's tough to balance, juggle everything, and still not, work too much.
yeah,
But it's been really a rewarding experience.
yeah. I'm curious though. Many cartoonists have told me that editorial cartoonists no longer have an influence on national issues like Herblock did, but we still have a
Mhm.
huge influence in keeping the city accountable, the city council accountable or the
Mhm.
mayor accountable. Is that something you enjoy, I guess, or?
I do, but I would actually take issue with that. I think editorial cartoons are far more influential than we realize, or even cartoonists realize.
Oh,
I
okay.
think that a single editorial cartoonist isn't as influential as like a Herblock was in Washington because of that platform. But editorial cartoons are everywhere. They're all over social media. You see them copied and pasted everywhere.
Yeah.
And so in aggregate, I think that they really are having influence in ways that we don't even really know. I mean, I see political cartoons all over the place on social media
Okay.
and pasted, and that, over time, it's like memes, I think, are influential, and I think political cartoons are in the same way.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you don't have as much individual influence as you might have over like a state or local politician.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and you feel it more, and you might hear from them, or their advocates, things like that. So yeah, it is an issue.
Yeah. So your experience with the mayor has had an influence that it pop. Are your cartoons different now after your experience with that or before? As opposed to.
Probably a little bit, and I can't no, I can't comment on him. Fortunately, his term just ended, so it's a conflict of interest for me to comment on somebody I worked for. And in fact, I
I didn't
I
mean
was
to imply that.
oh
It was just
I
a
wasn't
question
sure.
that popped up in my head.
I just wanted to clarify. Well, I think it just informs my work differently because I know how hard government is. It
Oh, yeah.
really is challenging, and they just take a ton of abuse.
Yeah.
And the people I worked for were really hardworking, and our mayor was really hardworking. And it's really hard to keep things from going. Like, you're going to have massive challenges, and it's very hard to it's hard work.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, there's some truth to the criticism of government. There are inefficiencies for sure, and there are people who don't work that hard. But overall, I found it to be a lot of smart, hardworking people.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
it made me, I guess, the criticism of Democrats is we love government is, well, I actually came away from that experience more impressed with government than before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I used to when I worked in for the city. I worked in the library, so
Yeah.
I worked for the city. So yeah, and I went to a lot of city council meetings. Yeah, I'm impressed by democracy in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll survive this era.
Yeah. I have a question about that later.
Okay.
Okay. You founded Counterpoint.
Yes.
Did 2018 or 2019?
You know, I think it was 2000, it was 2019.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
It's a
I,
forum for editorial cartoons and stuff. And
yes.
I have a two-part question.
Hmm.
Okay. The first part is just, just ask, tell me a little bit more about Counterpoint. But the
Hmm.
second part, I've talked to a few cartoonists who worry about preaching to the choir.
Hmm.
But Counterpoint has cartoonists from across the political spectrum.
Hmm.
Does that help the Counterpoint cartoonists break through some of the ideological bubbles and reach out to different audiences? So I guess whichever one you want to answer first.
So that was the idea, and the man who funds us, he was adamant that we have both sides every day, and both sides is a little oversimplified, but having so that it wasn't all from the left or the right. And so he was adamant that we have a liberal and a conservative cartoonist every day. And I was adamant that we not force the cartoonist into a position like, if you're the conservative, you don't have to defend Trump. I wanted our voices to be independent.
Yeah,
And if you're liberal or conservative, you still have the freedom to criticize your own side. And we've had some conservative readers who are upset by that because a lot of our conservative cartoonists don't really like Trump.
yeah,
Uh, but I think it's really challenging in this environment because we're polarized. We actually lose readers. Free, we have a paid version and a free version, and we will even lose free subscribers because they don't want to see both sides. We're
uh,
very siloed right now, and it's very polarized. And so I think it actually hurts us as a business to have both sides at this moment, in terms of like keeping readers. I think it would help us if we were able to get a partnership with something like Apple News or another bigger publication, because they don't want to be on one or the other side.
yeah,
And I have at times tried to find a partnership. I've gotten sidetracked by my day job, which is really busy. And
Uh,
but Counterpoint at this point is a labor of love. I don't make any money from running it. Amy Lago, who runs it more day to day now, she doesn't get paid. So we're doing it just to try to help political cartooning out.
yeah,
Um, and it's put money into cartoonist pockets. They're doing much better as a result. You know, we're almost all freelancers, and it's hard to find any kind of outlet. So it's something.
yeah,
And at this point, we're you know, we're keeping we had to cut payments because we were paying pretty decent. I really wanted cartoonists to make decent money. We were paying like $350 per cartoon, and we
yeah,
had to cut that by 2/3 in order to keep our, you know, keep things in balance. So we're keeping our head above water, but it's tough.
yeah,
Once I get some time, I want to start looking for some kind of partnership, and then if we could get a partnership with like Apple News or CNN, and then we could be ad supported and have a much bigger readership and not have to have the subscription model, which is
yeah.
a little tough. I think we'd be in much better shape, and I think it would have a much better chance of surviving.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. To me, there's a idealism about that because on
Yeah.
an idealistic level, I think it's important that we have both, liberal and conservative views and stuff. But
Hmm.
I guess the actuality about that, it's economically not feasible. But for democracy, I think democracy doesn't really function, at least in my opinion, if you only hear one voice and stuff.
I agree 100%, and I wish that readers were more open to seeing alternative points of view. But we are not in a climate right now where people just even want to be exposed to other points of view, and it's a shame.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the first part, is there anything else you wanted to talk about Counterpoint in general, or?
Um, Not really. I mean, we started a syndicate as well. The Washington Post
Uh,
ended the Washington Post Writers Group, which I used to be with the Washington Post Writers Group before I was with Tribune. And when they got out of the syndication business, Amy Lago was the manager of comics there, and she was very frustrated. And I talked to her. I was like, "Well, what do you think about trying to continue this under Counterpoint?" And she was like, "This is a great idea."
mhm.
Uh, so we gave it a shot. Unfortunately, Gannett then announced soon after we signed all the contracts that they were cutting out opinion pages, and that's 25% of the market. So
Yeah.
the syndication market is terrible. I wish we could be doing better for our cartoonists, but again, we're not making any money on the syndicate. We're just keeping our heads above water. But again, those cartoonists who are represented by us would probably be doing worse if we weren't doing this. I've
Uh,
thought about going to a nonprofit model. Thought about some different things. When I get some time to focus on it again, I'll I'll start pursuing those things.
no, don't worry. One of the things I'm realizing in life is just there are so many things that suck on your time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I've noticed that with my life too and stuff. I'm sort of caregiving for my mother-in-law and my dad and stuff, and that takes up a lot of my time and worry and stuff.
yeah,
And so,
yeah.
I think for you, you got your job, right?
And my wife, she's younger than me, but she has chronic pain and she's had
Um,
some major surgeries. So I was a caretaker for a while with her. She's doing much better now, but still she's still got chronic pain, and it's a challenge.
um,
Uh, but she's worth it. And then
I,
yeah,
I'll let you know that she is worth it and stuff. So
yes, she's
don't
amazing.
worry.
But I sometimes marvel that I used to do nothing but one political cartoon a day. That was my job. I am
Yeah.
juggling so many things now, and I can't believe that what I'm able to accomplish, how many things I'm able to accomplish.
Uh,
And I look back on that, I'm like, I had no idea how good I had it just doing one cartoon a day. That was such a luxurious life.
yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
it's gone
I'm hitting my 50s
now.
and I'm doing things that things pop up where I do things that I've never done before. And I've always had that insecurity, like, can I do this and stuff? And
Hmm.
we sometimes succeed and we sometimes fail and stuff, but it's like yeah, I'm always feeling like I think when you hit a certain age, especially like caregiving for older people and stuff,
Hmm.
it's like I'm doing things that I'm trying to learn things about the hospitals, about the Medicare system, all of that stuff that sometimes it feels I don't know, do you feel overwhelmed at times or
Oh my gosh, yes. Absolutely. That would be the word, yes.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I think it sounds like you're doing a good job. It's just you probably it sounds like you need a vacation or something.
Yeah, I could use a about a month long vacation, but I it would just be like if my work day got into more of a 40 hours a week would be amazing. That's what I kind of wish for. Yeah. That would be great.
Oh,
Someday.
okay, okay, okay. Well, okay. Here's a question that kind of what you were saying. Some of it leads into this question. Um, for the past few years, I've been trying to use my editorial cartoons to warn the Filipino American community about
Hmm.
the rising authoritarian threat of Rodrigo Duterte and
Yeah.
Bongbong Marcos. Here in
Hmm.
America, you talked a little bit about, the threat of authoritarianism of Donald Trump and
Hmm.
Trumpism. Um, you talked about, how about how our political cartoons aggregate have more influence than we realize. What role do you see editorial cartoonists having in fighting against authoritarianism?
Well, I would say it's the same thing. Like you're trying to warn Filipinos in a way that text alone can't do, and you're reaching a different audience. I recently teamed up again with the Houston Chronicle. Like I'm still good friends with my old colleagues at the Houston Chronicle, and we collaborated this past year on some full page narrative cartoons for people who like when the so what happened is I used to do these like a when I worked there like 10 years ago. I was doing full page and I would do my own writing, my own investigation, and really like a deep dive into a topic. And so they called me last summer and they're like, we got this impeachment trial coming up, but a lot of people don't really understand it. Would you be interested in doing one of these? So we collaborated, my publication and the Houston Chronicle collaborated, where we published it online and they published it on a Sunday full color section front. And we got overwhelmingly positive response. People were like, this is so great
Yeah,
because I don't have time to really figure all this stuff out. And this really helps me understand it. And so we ended up doing two more, one on the voucher thing and what's behind that. And then the last one was right at the end of the year on crypto mining in Texas. The Texas politicians are courting the crypto mining industry, which is terrible for our grid, which is
wow.
already strained. And then they pay the crypto miners extra money to stop mining because it's so energy intensive. Whenever the grid gets stressed,
Yeah.
they pay them a bunch of money, millions of dollars, and they make more money to
Oh,
stop their operations than they do when they're doing crypto
oh,
mining.
oh, okay.
So it's like it's so crazy. China outlawed crypto mining as undesirable a few years ago, and now Texas is bringing them in. It's so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, so what I'm trying to say is that the reaction we got from people was, now I understand this better because I don't like you and I, we spend so much time reading, but most people don't have that time
Yeah,
really
yeah.
following the news. So uh, an individual simple political cartoon can do the same thing. It takes longer and you need more of them. And it's sort of like making smaller impressions at a time, but it really does help inform people. And I had a woman recently tell me, your cartoons following your work shaped my philosophy. I am a liberal. She's probably more liberal than me. She is, but she said it's your work that I followed that shaped my politics. That's
Yeah.
pretty.
That's
That's pretty
pretty
profound.
cool. Yeah,
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 that's pretty
yeah,
great. So
yeah,
you are having an effect. You don't always hear it, but I promise you, you're having an effect. And I've been following Philippine politics, as you know, my wife is Filipina,
yeah,
and so we follow it, and the misinformation and disinformation there is terrible.
yeah.
And we watched the documentary about is it Rappler?
Rappler. Yeah. Maria Ressa.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, she is extraordinary woman, so courageous.
yeah, yeah,
She and I have you know debated. She was a little bit more sympathetic to Duterte at first. She felt like
oh,
Philippines maybe needed a strong hand, but after watching a couple documentaries, she's changed her mind.
oh,
She's
okay. I'm
bad
glad.
news. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things you talked about that I struggle with when I do a lot of reading, I tend to know more than my reader. about a certain subject, and I
Mhm.
have to be careful when I do my cartoons, not to get ahead of the reader. You
Yep.
know, sometimes I make a cartoon that I know about, but I sometimes forget that the reader doesn't know about, and I sometimes make the mistake of making a cartoon that my readers won't understand.
That is a really good point that people don't understand. It is a constant judgment call every day. What I think is important and what I think people know about. If
Yeah,
people know about it and they're informed, and then you can make a comment assumed knowledge that they will get it.
yeah.
If they don't know about it, then you have to inform them about it, which means it's a more multi-panel, more complex cartoon, and that's where the full page narrative cartoons come in.
Okay.
So yes, that is a constant struggle for me. What can I say that I know that people will know about
Yeah. And
already
so
for the daily
yeah, I'm
go?
glad you mentioned that about the multi-panel and stuff. So you're taking when you take the deep dives, you do the
Mm,
multi-panel cartoon. Because I one of the things I ask other cartoonists is single panel cartoons are good for a punch.
yeah.
Whereas multi-panel cartoons, I notice a few of our editorial cartoonists use multi-panel cartoons and they can explore nuance
Yeah.
that I can't. I tend to do single panel and I don't I struggle with nuance. I know issues are more complex than my single panel cartoon can convey, but I try to do it anyway, and my cartoons wind up clunky and stuff.
When you tried to do multi-panel, you leave it
Oh, no,
clunky.
well, when I try to do nuance in a single panel cartoon,
Okay.
it tends to be a bit
Huh.
I tend to those are the cartoons I kind of wish I wish I could have done that again.
Yeah, I for single panel that doing a punch is better than nuance. They tend to be more effective than nuance. Nuance works better with the multi-panel, I think.
Yeah. I think with my single panel stuff, I just struggle with dialogue. My dialogue is
Okay.
not very good.
I guess because I love writing too, that's been really fun for me. And actually it's been more rewarding to do these full page cartoons recently.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's so different and it's really rewarding and I love it. The only trouble is carving out the time to do it on top of everything else I'm doing. I wish I could spend more time doing those. My goal this year, because we're not in session, is to try to do more of those.
Oh, okay. So you do script and then you go to the Procreate. Do you have like a set for panels, or do you just create the panels?
It's real. I always start with the script first. I start with research. I do a ton of research and I start highlighting what's important because part of the challenge when there's a massive amount of information, what are the important things to point out and then create a narrative around those important points? And that's a real skill. There's not a lot of people that can do that well. And so I like to try to use that as much as I can. The biggest challenge is just time consuming. You have to just go
Yeah.
through so much information and keep taking stuff out. What can I eliminate? I don't ever want to be redundant. Don't try to make the same point in two panels because you're just wasting space. And then I try to connect the dots with a narrative, and it's really fun and rewarding. And I do love writing, so it's been really just a nice way to bring my skill set together.
Oh,
But yeah, it's time consuming.
yeah. Okay. I apologize. The only reason I'm asking is because I'm a nerd.
I guess I kind of am too because I seem to enjoy answering it.
Okay. Yeah. I always feel like a lot of times in these talks, I focus on craft just because I'm really curious. How do you guys do this and stuff?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. We're talking right now. I'm curious. Um, I notice in taking any sort of stands, especially as the times have gotten more polarized, it's had a personal cost for me, because even though I'm liberal, I used to have close conservative friends.
Mm-hmm.
But over the past maybe 15, 20 years, I've gradually lost those friendships as the times have gotten more polarized. And it's been very
Mm-hmm.
painful for me.
Yeah.
You're in a you're in Texas, right? And stuff. Even though it's becoming more purple, I'm did you go through the similar thing as the time has
Oh,
gotten more
yeah.
polarized?
Not. I haven't lost a whole lot of friends, but I've definitely lost some, and some was like maybe like people found me insufferable. I'm very opinionated in my work, but because I get all that out at work, I really don't impose it on people a whole lot.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I try
I'm
to,
similar. I'm similar. I don't talk politics much, but I put all of that in my cartoons.
and when I meet somebody with different points of view, I try to find like things we can agree on. I'm actually considering my work is combative in person. I'm actually kind of diplomatic and like to try to find common ground and things like that. Because I genuinely like people, and I'm always interested in like this person seems really nice, and yet their views don't seem very nice. And that was where some of the friends I lost, I discovered they turned out to be different people than I thought, and
Yeah,
something mean came out of them, and they became very angry at their fellow Americans and disparaging and hateful, I would say. And
yeah,
there were
yeah.
people I just go ahead.
Yeah, that's similar to, like when I had, even I had in those conservative friendships, in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, we actually were able to talk politics without being hurtful. But something changed. I don't know
Something
what
changed.
something
Trump gave
changed.
people permission to be assholes, I think.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the darkness, Trump appeals to the worst in people. We all have good and bad in us. We all have lightness and dark. And Trump appeals to the darkness in people and gives them permission to express it and to feel like it's okay.
yeah,
And so people did change. And
yeah,
then, I don't like, even though ironically I impose my views on people in my work, you don't have to read it. So when people keep wanting to talk politics with me and I find their views kind of objectionable, I start to be like, I don't know that I really want to spend my time with this person anymore if they're always wanting to talk politics and always wanting to like push their views in my face and tell me
yeah,
why I'm wrong. I'm like, this is getting kind of exhausting. But
yeah,
I really do try. My wife is Filipina, and a lot of her friends are women who have suburban conservative husbands, and
yeah.
I've become friends with several of them, and with some of them we can talk politics very well, and others I try to avoid the topic and try to just find other things I like about them.
Yeah.
So we make it work, but at times it's challenging.
Yeah, yeah. Because
But
I know, like when I form a friendship with somebody, I don't ask their political affiliation and
yeah,
stuff. And you get to know them as a human being first before
yeah.
you know their politics, right? I
Mm.
think for me, what was painful was some of those friendships I lost were very close friends
Oh, that's a shame. Yeah,
and stuff, so that was a painful thing. So I was just curious, since you're in Texas, I wonder if you went through that, but it doesn't
yeah.
sound like you had close friendships you lost, but they were friends.
Yeah, and the conservatives here are more strident because they're in the majority, and they can be assholes, and it gets old. Living in a red state, especially one where people are so strident, it really does get old sometimes. And I feel like if I'm at a social event, I have to have my guard up because when people find out what I do, they sometimes want to start arguments when they first meet me, which is
Yeah.
always obnoxious. So I always try to diffuse that, or just stand. Like if they keep insisting, I'll just kind of stand my ground and be civil and try to get out of it if we're not making any progress. But sometimes I have thoughtful conversations with those people. So it's a mixed bag. But Texas is challenging.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I give a big sigh. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, okay. This is going to be a very strange question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. So, if you don't have a good answer, don't worry. But what do you do when you encounter a political issue that you feel ambivalent about? Do
Oh,
you
that's a good question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you avoid doing a cartoon on that subject? Or so you mentioned you do multi-panel cartoons. Do
Hmm.
you use the multi-panel cartoon format to deal with an issue you feel ambivalent about? And I guess the reason I'm asking this is because for the past maybe 2 months, I've really struggled with doing a cartoon on the Gaza conflict
Same.
because I I I want some way for Israelis and Palestinians to coexist in peace, and I'm
Hmm.
horrified by the killing of innocent Palestinian and Israeli lives.
Yeah.
But I don't like Hamas. I don't like Netanyahu. And so my cartoons have been pretty ambivalent and stuff. A lot of cartoonists have been doing a lot more strong cartoons than me because I just feel ambivalent about taking a side.
Mhm.
I just want the killings to stop. So I'm sure I can't think of another issue where I feel that ambivalent about, but I'm sure there are. But for you, it may not be the Israeli Palestinian conflict, but for when you encounter an issue you feel ambivalent about, how do you handle that?
It's a great question, and I the same way. I will sometimes avoid the topic because I just like I don't know what to say about this, or I'll try to do a series of cartoons to try to match the complexity. That topic is really a good one, and one that I'm a little frustrated about because I was out of town when the October 6th or October 7th
Seventh,
attack happened,
seventh. Yeah.
and it was horrific. I mean, what Hamas did was just horrific. I was not available. I didn't even know about it for a while in full until I got back to work on Monday because I was actually at the cartoonist convention, and I
Oh,
was
oh, okay, okay.
yeah. And were you there? Because it was in San Francisco.
Yeah, I was there. I met you
Oh,
there.
oh,
No, I,
that's right. God, that's right. Yeah, we talked really briefly. Yeah, we
yeah,
didn't get a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
talk.
No, I don't think that the attack was on our during the
Yeah, it happened that
convention.
Saturday.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, and yeah, I remember we talked about doing this. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Um, and so by the time I really tuned in, I was back at work on Monday, and I had a bunch of state issues I had to work on.
Yeah, yeah,
Things had gotten really heated with the voucher thing again. So I didn't get to comment on it until the middle of the week, and I felt like my cartoon was not great. I took a shot at Hamas, but I've actually been harder on Israel, and it's people get mad about that. But the reason is not that I support Hamas, it's that we support Israel as a country. We are funding them. So I feel like we have more influence over our friends.
yeah,
And I don't like the way they're conducting this. They had every right to go after Hamas, but they are punishing the Palestinians collectively
yeah.
for Hamas's crimes.
No, I agree with you. That's my feeling too and stuff.
And you know, they say, well, Hamas has overwhelming support. Well, Hamas was elected in 2007. 47% of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip were not even born when Hamas was elected. They're
Yeah,
under 18, and they had no say in this. There's been no election since, and it's like Hamas is like best guess, highest guess I've seen is 40,000 people, and they're punishing 2 million people, destroying. I mean, they're doing so much destruction and killing so many people, including many kids.
yeah,
It's not the way I think we should be, and we're partially funding this.
yeah,
So yeah, I have been more critical of Israel, but I haven't done that many cartoons about it because of the ambivalence and the frustration with Hamas. They're impossible to deal with. They
yeah.
want to drive Israel into the sea. So it's like I don't want to say too much criticizing Israel because of that, because of Hamas is so awful.
Yeah, yeah, I feel the same way and stuff, and that's
Yeah,
been my struggle and stuff.
yeah, it's a struggle.
I'm trying to instead of so I'm trying to my cartoons I've been trying to be all encompassing. It's not that I remember I was saying how nuance is difficult in a single panel cartoon.
Hmm.
That has been very painful for me. I think I should try to do a multi-panel cartoon instead, but I'm like you. I don't think I have the time and stuff. But
And then
I
readers
try to focus.
respond
Oh,
when you do a single panel on this issue, then readers will respond, "Oh, so Israel's not allowed to defend themselves?" And like, of course they are. Like, so because they don't see the body of work, they just see one, they respond to just that. So yeah,
yeah,
they don't see any nuance and they misunderstand your point of view because you have a complex point of view. So it can be frustrating
yeah,
in that regard.
yeah, yeah. Because I was when I think when it first started, I started getting messages from people telling me, you should support Palestinians and you should support the
Mhm.
Israelis, and I kind of do. I just wonder in the back of my head, I always have the suspicion that when they say support Palestinians, they mean support Hamas, or when they say support Israelis, they mean support Netanyahu,
Right,
and that puts me in a sort of like I don't want to support mass murderers or rapists and stuff, yeah, right?
right,
And
right,
stuff. And that doesn't they don't symbol at least in my mind, they don't represent the whole of the Israeli or the Palestinian people. And
right.
so yeah, I don't know. So I'm glad you struggle with it too, because
Yeah.
it's sort of a moral dilemma for me, and I don't I haven't really figured out how to resolve it.
and when we feel ambivalent, we don't, our best work doesn't come out. So, and there's so many other things to comment on that I end up gravitating toward issues where I'm more clear-eyed on my position. It's easier to express yourself when you're angry and very focused and not ambivalent, for sure.
Yeah. That's why the Tarte thing was easier and stuff. I can just say extrajudicial killings are wrong.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be an argument about that.
Yeah, you would think.
No, there is. There is.
There is an argument, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a very bad one.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
depressing.
yeah. So I'm curious, do you get scared? When you look at the political situation now and stuff, I sometimes get scared and stuff, but where I do all the research and I see how bad things are, and I think gosh, why are we repeating the mistakes of authoritarianism that we made in the 30s and stuff? You
I'm
get
very,
worried about it?
yeah, I'm very, very worried about it. I am very worried for our country. I believe if Trump is elected, and during the first term, the people that kept him, the guardrails held because of the people that were in his administration that ultimately, like Mike Pence, decided to choose country over party, and several of his people in his administration did keep him in check, but he will not make that mistake again. He will appoint only loyalists who he can tell exactly what to do, and I do not think the guardrails will hold. I read the book How Democracies Fail, and we have so many of the warning signs for other democracies have failed around the world, and we have so many of the same warning signs. And one of the biggest ones is the party that they come from, their own party enables them thinking they can control them, or they're just afraid of them, as the Republicans are. They have enabled Trump terribly. They have no spine, and the
Yeah,
few that have stood up to him have lost elections. It's
yeah.
very disturbing, and I don't know how we get out of this.
Oh, okay. Well, when you find out, let me know.
Yeah, I will.
I don't know either, and I'm scared. But I talk to cartoonists, and I don't know that they have the answer, but they have a grim determination to use their cartoons to fight it in any way they can.
Yeah,
Stuff, and that
and I,
inspires me because they're more courageous than I am and stuff. I'm safe and
yeah,
stuff, but
really, I don't see your work as safe. You feel like your work is safe?
no. I live in a safe place.
Oh, you live in a safe place. Yeah,
Yeah,
that.
so like there's no retribution if I do a cartoon against Duterte.
Yeah,
There's no retribution if I do, since you're in Texas, for me, there's no retribution if I do a cartoon again. I don't really do that many cartoons about Trump, but if I do, I don't feel maybe on a personal level, I'll lose a few friends, but
yeah.
I don't think there's going to be any other retribution besides that.
Yeah, and we're in a political an environment with political violence is real possible and has happened, and so and I get emails, threatening emails from time to time, and you can kind of stop and wonder.
Uh,
But you keep doing what you do because that's I gotta say what I gotta say.
Yeah, okay. Well, I admire your courage. So
Oh,
thank
thanks.
you. So okay, this is um, um, and a few months ago, I talked to Ed Hall.
Hmm.
He's an editorial cartoonist, and he has a Filipino wife. Okay,
Hmm.
and I was kind of happy to hear that and stuff. And so I wanted to talk to the other American editorial cartoonist who has a Filipino wife.
Hmm.
Namely you. Okay,
Yes.
and so I'm curious. What do you love about Filipino culture? And do you have any favorite Filipino foods?
I would say lumpia is my favorite Filipino food, although you could say it's an egg roll. So I would say pancit is my favorite. I really love that. And there's a restaurant here that makes really good pancit, so we go there about once a month.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
there's a lot of I will not eat balut. My wife has tried to make me eat balut. For those of you who are listening who don't know what balut is, it is a fermented duck egg, and it's just as disgusting as it sounds. There's a duckling in there. It's not like a yolk. There's a duckling in the egg, and it's fermented.
Now, do they serve that in that restaurant?
No, I don't think they do. Maybe they do, but my wife gets it from time to time from different places, and it
In
just
Texas,
smells
she gets it.
horrible.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
she's able to get it. Do you like balut?
No.
Disgusting.
Yeah, my dad played a prank on me. He told me that, I think I was a kid back then. He said, "Hey, you should try balut and stuff." And I had no idea what it was. So, That was sort of my dad's sense of humor when he was younger.
Yeah, it's gross. So there are things I love about Filipino culture. Filipinos I find are very giving and helpful and kind. But there's a flip side to that that I see with my wife's friends, in that there can be kind of a toxicity when, especially among her female friends, there seems to be this, they don't like anyone else getting too much attention or too much success or something. But
Oh,
there
okay.
always seems to be that, she calls it the crab mentality, where if anybody is trying to climb out of the pail and doing too well, that everyone else will drag them down.
Oh,
There's a
okay.
lot of bad mouthing, and the groups of friends are always shifting, and people turn on each other. And I've never seen anything like it. And she's a very kind person, and people misjudge her. She's a very attractive woman. I think people misjudge her as being stuck up because she's very guarded. She's
Yeah.
been hurt by a lot of people, so she's very guarded, and people misinterpret that as being a bitchy or stuck up. And she has her share of haters. Um, and it's mostly from that community, like not so much other ethnic groups. It all seems to be coming from this one community. So that's the flip side of it that I find a little
Uh,
disillusioning.
I'm sorry she's gone through that and stuff. Yeah.
Have you seen this in recent?
I'm a Filipino American. I was
Mhm.
raised in military bases.
Okay.
I only really started hanging around with a lot of Filipinos during high school. What I went through was a little different and stuff, is the clash between being an American and
Mhm.
Filipino. So a lot of Filipinos who recently immigrated from the Philippines would criticize me because I didn't know the language.
Okay.
I didn't know the culture and
Mhm.
stuff. But I think I was lucky in a way because I'm a nerd, a nerdy guy, and
Mhm.
I had the good luck of meeting a lot of nerdy Filipino Americans in high school.
Good luck. Uh-huh.
So that was sort of my safe haven and stuff. It's just and but in college and stuff, my first girlfriend was Filipina, and she accepted me for who I was, and that was a big boost for my self-esteem.
Mhm.
And I took a Asian American history class where I met a lot of Filipino Americans who were just like me and stuff. And what else? And then, I think those two things helped me kind of shelter me. So I did have Filipino friends from the that were recently arrived from the Philippines, but I think because of my experience with my ex-girl, my first girlfriend and stuff, she helped me to um, feel proud of. I can be proud of being Filipino and being proud of American. So the that sort of toxicity that you talked about, I
Mhm.
don't know if that's the toxicity I felt was just the sort of why don't you know and stuff? Why don't you know the culture? Why don't you know this? But I was raised in a military
Yeah,
base.
like
I would never
why
have
would
known.
you? Yeah.
Yeah.
You have the culture that you grew up with. That's why they call
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I
That's
can't
unfair.
know what I didn't grow up with, and I think that's something that I kind of resolved during my college years. I don't know if that's the same thing you're talking about, but that was sort
Probably
of
not, because she was born in Philippines and didn't move to the States until she was, I think, 20 or 21.
yeah,
So it seems to be more just like people that she thought were really good friends can suddenly turn on her, and she's like, "What the hell
yeah.
happened?" We've run into that a lot, an unusual amount of that, which is very surprising.
Yeah, yeah. I think the fact that I was a nerd, nobody, nobody, um, was jealous of me. You don't tend to get you don't tend to get jealous of nerds and stuff.
True, true.
So,
Maybe I need to tell her to be more nerdy, and that
yeah.
would work.
Tell her to visit a lot of comic book shops and
Yeah,
start talking Star Trek and
there you go.
she knows where the bathrooms are in the Enterprise and stuff and
That would do it. I think that would do it. That's hilarious.
yeah, yeah. I was never a cool person and stuff. So I think my thing was just a sort of like condescension towards nerds.
Uh-huh.
That was sort of what I felt. But I don't know if that's specific to. I think even if I was a white person and stuff, that condescension would just be there just because of the nerdiness and stuff. But I think Filipinos want to feel like they're cool and stuff. So so that was sort of like my thing. But I but I was, I was lucky to find my group of friends and stuff,
Yeah.
that were sort of like a safe cocoon for me, so that when people put me down and stuff, I can go in that cocoon and stuff and feel safe
Hmm.
and stuff.
Yeah.
I think we all need that and
Yeah,
stuff.
we all do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so okay, this is my last question and stuff.
Hmm.
What do you love about editorial cartoons, and why are editorial cartoons important?
I love how unique it is. There is just no other form of political commentary like it. And because it's unique and because it's visual and because it's very fast to understand, I think it can be very effective. Even today, when our influence is probably diluted, um, I still think it's very influential in ways we don't really understand or feel. Or I'm always like, Twitter's really cool in one respect, in that I'll see cartoons from 10 years ago popping up still. People will be like,
Oh,
and
wow.
they'll tag me in it. And that's really cool. It's like, there's a few that really seem to have shelf life, but I'll see all the time cartoons from way a long time ago that I've forgotten about, but somebody posts and tags me in it. So that
Yeah.
tells me that they're having an impact. And oftentimes people post them and don't tag me, and I happen to see them, or somebody else will say, "Hey, that's a Nick Anderson cartoon," and they'll tag me. So that tells me that they're being seen all over the place in ways that we don't even know about. And I see other cartoonists work without being tagged, so they don't know that it's out there influencing people. I just love how quickly it can get across an opinion, and how it can pull to it. It's very challenging because it requires such a diverse set of skills that have to all kind of mutually coexist. Insight, some intelligence, artistic skill, um, just writing, preferably, like some, depending on your style.
Yeah.
These things all come together to create our own voice, and that to me is pretty cool. It's very rewarding. When I got into political cartooning, I was really deathly shy. I had very little confidence. I was very shy, and it was a safe way for me to have a creative outlet.
Yeah.
Um, I could have a voice without speaking up.
Yeah.
I was so shy. And now I'm like, I'm not shy anymore, but I was very shy back then. And partly as a result of what I do, I'm a lot less shy and way more confident.
Oh,
It's because I think, because of that process of being able to communicate effectively and start to feel confident about it. But it gave me a voice for, shy kid from Ohio, gave me a pretty big platform, and that was pretty
oh.
great.
That is
Uh,
so cool. That's so
yeah,
cool.
it's
Yeah,
been
and it was a
rewarding.
similar thing to me and stuff, is that
Mhm.
before I did editorial cartoons, in my 20s and 30s, I wasn't doing art. I wasn't doing I wasn't in any galleries or anything. And it was sort of like, I felt like a failure for a while. And editorial cartoons was a means for me. It was one of the means for me to, oh gosh, people are seeing my work now,
Yeah.
and it gave me confidence that I didn't have. It's a similar thing to you. And
Hmm.
then I won a few awards, and I don't think I'm a better cartoonist than another cartoonist because I won an award, but it
Hmm.
gave me self-confidence that, oh gosh, other people think I'm pretty good and
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just that and stuff. I still kind of stutter and stuff, but other than that, yeah, I think you're right. I'm glad you had that. It was kind of like an evolution process for you. It gave you an avenue to tap into your best self, I guess.
Yeah, and the irony is I did it because I thought it was safe, and then I found out it's not. You can't hide. You're gonna
Oh,
people, because you make people mad, and people want to tell you, and you have a responsibility to stand, to defend your work. And then I'm getting, a lot of requests for public speaking. Oh my God, when I was in Louisville, when I was working at the paper there, I was getting requests for public speaking at schools all the time. And public speaking was terrifying for me. It,
oh,
I would, if I had a speech on Friday, I would start getting anxious on Monday.
uh-huh.
And it took me years to get better at it, but it really forced me out of my shell.
Oh,
And the phone calls, before the internet, it was like phone calls every day, or their mail letters. And I remember my first year at the Louisville Courier Journal, I did a cartoon trashing the quality of American cars.
yeah.
And I didn't really realize it, but they make the Ford Explorer in Louisville, Kentucky. And
Oh,
oh my God, I created a shit storm. I just started and I was shy, and that still to this day, the biggest shitstorm of my career. The
Yeah.
entire board, we were getting so many emails, so many letters. I don't think we had email back then. And
Yeah.
Ford corporate, we heard from everybody. And then in order to calm things down, the whole editorial staff had to take a tour of the Explorer plant. And then they kind of like sandbagged me. They put me in the middle of this table, and our staff was in this long table, and then there were like two really long tables with like 100 UAW workers battering me with questions, and I'm like, fuck my life. It was so like hard for me, but yet at the same time, I'm like, man, I'm making a difference here. People are paying attention. It was quite an experience. And then another time, I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic schools, and
Yeah.
when my second son was getting baptized, it was when the pedophile scandal in the Catholic Church was
Yeah.
coming out. I had done a few
Yeah.
cartoons, and we had a new pastor who didn't know that the cartoonist was sitting right up front in the first row waiting to get his son baptized. And he starts talking about the so-called scandal, making excuses for the church and blaming the media, including that local anti-Catholic cartoonist. My ex-wife's family was filling the pew, and they were very devout Catholics. It was quite an awkward experience.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I have to say, as a former Catholic myself and stuff, yeah, I'm a former Catholic that still has fond feelings for the Catholic Church. But
Mhm.
the Catholic Church, they deserve, the cover up, they deserve
Yeah,
the
they
criticism.
deserved it. It's
You know,
it's evil.
yeah, and stuff. I still, I'm still deeply influenced by the progressive side of the Catholic Church. But you know what?
Yeah.
Both progressives and conservatives, they were in on it and stuff. I think part of the thing with the Catholic Church is, one of the things you teach is humility. You
Yeah.
got to be humble enough to admit when you did wrong.
And that was my break with the church. I have not been back to the Catholic Church except for weddings and funerals. I have not.
Um,
I was done with it after that day. I mean, it was like, are you
yeah,
kidding me? You're blaming people who are pointing out your screw up and attacking them. That was just the end for me. And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
anyway,
I'm sorry about
it's
that.
okay. It's a great story.
Yeah.
And then I went and got my son baptized by the same pastor.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's okay. I'm a little different in that because the Catholic Church has been such a strong defender of democracy in the
Yeah,
Philippines and in Latin
yeah.
America. I,
Hmm.
I think I have more of a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
There are things about the Catholic Church I love, and there are things about the Catholic Church I hate and stuff.
Yeah, they do great work with immigration services as well here in the
Yeah,
States.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
they do a lot of great work, and it's frustrating to see
Yeah, it's
the
just,
mistakes.
but Pope Francis is having a difficult time with the conservatives
Yeah.
because he wants to make a more transparent church so that there'll be no more cover-ups. But
Mm.
some conservative hierarchy do not want a transparent church because it dilutes their power.
And yeah, it's very threatening to them.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay. Well, okay. Now, after I will stop this religious spiel and yeah,
Okay.
and and thank you very much for. Did you have anything else to add or no?
Actually, yeah, I want to throw in the Patreon page and a Substack. So Patreon was a lifeline for me when I lost my job. I started
Okay.
Patreon, and I would have retired from political cartooning if not for Patreon. It's saved my career.
Oh,
In fact, I had told my syndicate when I was with the Washington Post Writers Group at that point, I was like, I'm making more money freelance. I don't think I can do this anymore. And then I did a cartoon about Trump's border policy that just went viral, and my Patreon went up 30% in like a week. And I'm like, maybe I should stick with this. And then at one point, I had like during the 2020 election, I had like 1,100 patrons
yeah,
for supporting me financially. So that is really important if you support someone's work, because what they really do is they're supporting the message
yeah,
in, in your voice. And I'm really grateful for my Patreon supporters and Substack, which is Substack is different, that I have a free subscription and then a paid. And this I have like 6,000 subscribers for the free one and like 125 for the paid.
yeah,
Um, And the reason I'm still doing that, even though I have a job as an editor, is because I don't want to be an editor the rest of my life, but I want to continue cartooning
Yeah.
far into retirement. So when I retire, I will continue doing Patreon and Substack, and I want to grow that so that it really still supports my political cartooning. But being an editor and writer is what supports my day job.
Uh,
So if you have a cartoonist you like and they have a Patreon page, I'm going to suggest to your readers, give, I have as little as $1 a month where it's
oh,
out,
okay.
and that, it makes a difference if you have a lot of supporters. And I can't remember the URL off the top of my head, but you can find it through a web search.
Send it to me through the message and I'll put it in this video.
Okay, will do.
Yeah,
And
I,
yeah,
I
you
want to
can even,
support you and stuff. So, yeah. But and you don't have to give me a percentage.
good deal. Good deal. Yeah, I'm down to like under 900 now on Patreon. I think I'm like, but yeah, it was over 1100 at one point. But I don't have the time. Patreon takes a lot of nurturing. You got to give your readers something a
Oh,
reason to, more than just the cartoon. So I'll do like time-lapse drawings, and then I'll explain my creative process, and I'll put that behind the paywall, and then I'll show them sketches that didn't get published and things like that. So
oh,
so they get something out of it. They kind of feel like they're a part of it, and then they comment, and I try to participate in that a little bit. So that's where try to give them a little value for their support.
oh, good, good. Okay. Well, good luck with that and stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
That's my retirement plan.
Okay. Okay. Well, I just want to thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today.
You bet. It's been a pleasure, and it's been good talking. We never had a real long conversation before, so it's been a pleasure.